Alright, hello everybody. My name is Antonio, also known as Zelgius within the Neon White community. And today I'm going to make a little video just going over the basics of gyroscope aiming and how to practice getting more consistent with it. So for a little bit of context, I'm the #1 ranked player on the Switch version and #7 ranked player on the PlayStation version. And I have almost 1,000 hours in the game now, and I would say like 700 to 800 of those are just using gyroscope aiming. So let's get into what it is and how I practiced getting better with it, so you can too. So start off with the basics. If you want to use gyroscope aiming, you have to be either on a PlayStation controller or a Switch controller, or Switch Joy-Cons, or the Switch console itself. Unfortunately, Xbox controllers do not have gyroscope aiming or gyroscope functionalities yet. Hopefully in the next generation or two they'll finally implement that. But yeah, so once you have your specific console that you're choosing and your controller, you want to come into Pummel to start out with. I would say this is a great place to learn aiming, where PC players have aim labs on Steam and stuff. We have Pummel. All right, so here's how I do. I'll turn down my stick so it's not as bad, but here's how I practice getting better with gyroscope. So I'm just gonna turn this down real quick and show you how bad my aim is without. Geez, that's still really sensitive, but okay. Like I really am not the greatest with standard aiming. Like this took me forever, and I'm gonna like barely finish with 30 seconds done. Like it's pretty bad. So let's just get right back into this. I'm gonna move this back up so I feel decent. All right. So if you move over to the gyroscope tab here, there's a bunch of settings here. You won't see this bottom part if you're on PlayStation, since this is specifically for Joy-Cons, and I don't use those. So first off, you want to click this to turn it on. One misconception that I think a lot of people will probably start out by doing is turning everything all the way up. I'm not gonna have you sit here and watch me do that, but don't turn everything up. Depending on your controller, if you start moving it around, it'll just start going all over, depending on how extreme your movements are, and it's just very unwieldy. So when you're starting out with gyroscope, there's two things you need to answer. Number one, what is it about your play that you need to be more consistent? And then number two, how are you going to use gyroscope to fix that? So for me, I find that my vertical aiming is pretty decent. I'm pretty accurate on it for the most part. But I find that my horizontal aiming is where I have issues. So for me, if I go in here, my personal settings have gyroscope horizontal like almost all the way up, while my vertical centers usually around here-ish. So you can see in my hand cam, I'm not really moving much, but my vertical is going pretty far, and then I have a decent range of motion with my horizontal aiming as well. So that's my settings. But what I would do is start pumped up horizontal all the way if you want to improve your horizontal, and then start as low as possible on vertical, and then just go through a few runs that I'm about to show you, and then just adjust it a few ticks every run or two, and just find what feels normal. So how you're going to practice this, start out just by coming here and then just trying to make a nice little circle, just nice little circle, and shoot all of them and get that consistent. So I'll do it a few more times so you can see. And when you're using gyroscope aiming, you don't want to be having to do these giant motions here. That's not the point of gyroscope. You just want this nice little range of motion that you have. You shouldn't be moving your wrists or your arms too much unless you're going for some crazy strats that not even any of us would dare go for. But yeah, so like I completed that in about 6 seconds, all the shooting. So yeah, once you're done that, then I would say, you want to start hitting moving targets. So try and use the gyroscope just to do the standard fall off the ledge red route. Sorry. And once you do that a few times, right, you can do it any way you want. You don't have to aim for time. You're just trying to get better at the aiming, right? Once you have that under your fingers, then we step it up a bit, right? Now, instead of doing that, you're going to come over here, and while moving, you're going to do all of that shooting again. I missed a few that time. And then you're going to try and complete the level. I'd say once you get it like maybe like three times out of 10 or so, that was a pretty decent run, right? Just once you feel like it's consistent for you, then you can start just moving on towards other levels and stuff. But, you know, just keep doing that and it'll get consistent in no time. Yeah, I would say if you're looking for like a good time, like anything around that 8.2 to like 7.6 is really, really good. But, you know, if you have your own goals, go for them. So once you graduate from Pummel, I would just say kind of go through the remainder of Chapter 1 and get better at it. Another level I find pretty tough aiming-wise is Bounce here. Especially if you're going for routes past red. So, like, especially if you're trying to do this. Oop, screwed it up, but, you know, shooting that guy and then coming up here. Because that can be kind of difficult. But yeah, so Bounce, that's another one. And I guess your final test for your comfort would be Glassport. I'm not gonna do. Well, let's see what route. I don't even remember some of these routes anymore. But I mean, yeah, you could do this one, I guess. I don't even remember the route anymore. But yeah, you get the point. If you can get through Chapter 1, Glassport, and all that stuff, then I'd say you're pretty comfortable. And then you should be ready for some of the tougher ones. I would say the absolute final test, if you really need a test of your skills, would be Ascent. Because there's the Aim Labs route that I'm going to try and show off a bit here. Where you got to do like all of these shots, real quick succession. And then especially this part, you got to aim really well. Right, and then you come all the way up here. If you can hit about a 25 or so on this, I would say you've passed the gyroscope test. That is my final exam for you. Past that, there's some other settings you can screw around with. This is roll versus yaw. It depends on how your how the gyroscope is going to measure. So with roll, as you've seen in my hand cam probably, I'm just kind of moving it around normally. If I lift right, it'll go right. If I lift left, it'll go left. I believe yaw reverses that, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, well that was the case on PlayStation. I don't really know what the difference is on Switch then, unless my controller is just being interesting. But I typically keep it on roll. I found it to be a little more smooth, at least from what I've experimented with. PlayStation is a whole other beast that I want to make a future video on, just because there's some really interesting differences between them. But I think that's enough to get new players started. So I'm going to end this video here. If you have any comments or questions, just please leave them down in the comments below. Or I'll also drop the link to the Neon White Console speedrunning server down in the description. You can also find me there if you have any other further questions. And if I'm not available there, there's like 1 or 2 other players who use Gyro on Switch that can help you. Unfortunately, I don't think any players really use it on PlayStation, but regardless, we can still answer your questions on it. So yeah, with that, thanks for watching, and hope to see you in the next one. See ya.